edition of Jason Talks About, and on this edition, Jason talks about the week in AEW, starting with AEW Dynamite on December 18th, 2024, and I'll be doing a little bit of Rampage and Collision as well. Right off the top, I want to say that music you heard, Reality 508, wherever you get music, check them out, support local talent, and please give us a like and a subscribe. That means the world to me. It helps me tremendously the more subscriptions I get, so thank you. I've said it on the last show, I'm just an ordinary guy doing this, and the likes, shares, the subscriptions, all of it means the world to me as I try to build this up. So thank you so much to everybody who is helping out with your support. Okay, so AEW, it was the Holiday Bash. They showed the Death Riders arriving, and there's a trios match tonight where they're going to face Moxley's opponents at World's End. So it's going to be Mox, the champion, Yuta, and Pac against Hangman, Jay White, and Orange Cassidy tonight. So Renee is then shown in the back with Orange Cassidy and Jay White. Hangman interrupts them. Jay White is doing this like weird kind of almost comedy-ish, comedic exchange with Hangman, who's very angry, and whatever. It wasn't really that good. Then they show MJF arrive, and the crowd is hot for MJF's arrival. Then we go to the TBS Championship is the opening contest, and it's the champion Mercedes Moné versus Anna Jay. They showed a flashback to this match in Japan that Mercedes had, I guess, the prior weekend. I apologize, I don't know the woman's name that she wrestled in Japan. There's people like Dave Meltzer saying, oh my god, this could have been the women's match of the year. Well, I don't know. I don't have a point of reference. I haven't watched it. But then they showed Mina Shirakawa apparently came out at the end of that match, which Mercedes won in Japan. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. They're going to set them up now. But then they just had a dance-off in the ring. So AEW just can't help themselves sometimes, this creative. Like, what does that mean? Like, Mina wants to fight Mercedes, but they start dancing off against each other? Like, I don't get it. Anyway, believe it or not, there was a lot of chants of "Let's go Anna, CEO. Let's go Anna, CEO." And I did write down the crowd was into it. So for a lot of the shit AEW gets, especially Mercedes Moné, I have noticed the last few times I've watched Mercedes wrestle, the crowd has been into her, and there's been more than a couple of breakouts of chants for CEO. That's not me being a fanboy. I'm just speaking the facts here. And I will say something else. I wrote throughout this episode the crowd was into it, and I think one of the big factors was they were in a smaller arena, which everyone has been begging AEW to do, and you could feel it. Now, noticeable that the entrance way was very short, like in terms of the entrance to the ring. It was a short walk. However, the crowd was closer to the action, more intimate, and the energy was palpable. Like this felt way better than having 2,500 people in a 20,000 seat arena. You can hear that, you can feel that through the TV screen, when it's bad, but you can also feel it when it's good. And the crowd was really into this. And I know there's some AEW detractors, and especially those who are against their women's division in particular, that would maybe scoff at me saying that. Look, folks, watch it back, listen to the crowd. I'm not making this shit up. They were into it. Okay. Monet won with the moneymaker. I don't have a lot to say about the match. It wasn't like a technical masterpiece or anything, but it was okay. And they did show Statlander watching from the monitor in the back. So it looks like they're not giving up on her and Mercedes just yet. I did get a little laugh out of a sign that said, fan said something to the effect of like, I'm for Mercedes because she knows Grogu. That was pretty funny, alluding to Mercedes' time on The Mandalorian. Okay, so they show an FTR video of them in their home, and I just said to myself, thank God, because I would have bet anything the way Collision ended with them having hoods thrown over their heads, that we were going to do some kidnapping angle where they were going to be in a dark warehouse with Moxley trying to get like an Oscar for like playing some maniac in a movie or something. So they're in their home. They said, hey, we even, they talked about how they got beat up and they got jumped, by the Death Riders. So basically, I guess we're led to believe they threw hoods over their head, dragged them out to the parking lot, and just beat them up. They're not cleared until after the new year. Very convenient. They said we're not, but they said when we come for you guys, we're not coming alone. So I don't know who they're coming with. Now, that was an interesting statement because that opened up a lot of possibilities. Ricky Starks, or who are they talking about here? We know Bryan Danielson, is out there. I don't think it's going to be him. It was interesting where FTR did say, like, hey, we even agree with you guys to a degree that AEW needs to change. Okay. Nice of you to point that out, but I don't know if that was an important factoid with the guys that just beat the shit out of you. But anyway, I would like to see FTR do well against them. I said before I was not a fan of how they had Claudio and Moxley just totally bitch them out and choke them both out in the middle of the ring the last time they fought. So I would like to see FTR look a little better in the rematch. Then they go into the ring where MJF comes out for his promo. And again, the crowd is red hot for MJF. He's always good at turning them back against him, though. He talks about the Washington Wizards because they were in Washington. Talks about how bad they suck. He puts Hanukkah over. Talks about how Santa's not real, which got a Santa chant. I don't think I've ever heard a Santa chant before. Well, yeah, maybe when like Mick Foley dressed him as him or something, but just a mention of Santa getting a chant, that was pretty cool. Then he says he's going to do a fundraiser, MJF, for the holidays, and this nice music comes on, and it's for a small child, and he shows a picture of photoshopped Adam Cole, who looks scrawnier than usual, believe it or not. Called him a small yellow baby, and all and just totally roasted him, which is just funny because he's just owning Adam Cole in this feud, like especially on the mic. It's just, man, talk about making a babyface look bad. And then Cole's on the screen with Taven and Bennett, and he makes a comment about, hey, MJF, am I kicking your ass yet? And he goes, what? And then Cole is behind MJF in the ring. So a clever little pre-tape by Adam Cole there. And he starts beating on MJF, and MJF narrowly avoids the Panama Sunrise and powders out of the ring and makes his way up the rampway. So Adam Cole and MJF. If you like it or not, folks, we're getting that match. Then they go to Jamie Hayter backstage, doing a promo about Julia Hart, and she's going to fight her on Fight for the Fallen. Okay. Then, which, by the way, is the first simulcast on Max. They're calling it the mother of all simulcasts. There's a Kenny Omega video about how he's going to be at Wrestle Dream. So that's good. That's exciting that he's going to be back. I think they really need him right now. And then it was Christian and Nick Wayne versus Hook and Shibata. There was a lot of interference by Kip Sabian and Mother Wayne. Christian ended up hitting the kill switch on Shibata and the Patriarchy win. There was a Jericho in New York package. I didn't really pay too much attention to that. A Bandito Clips package. Again, I'm not wasting my time with that. Then Mariah May was backstage doing a promo about Thunder Rosa and said something about bring your father to watch us fight. A little bit of a low blow because it's going to be in Thunder Rosa's hometown when they fight each other. I don't remember what that's going to be on. I think it might be the Fight for the Fallen, I want to say. I think that's what it is. So then we have Shivani is in the ring, and he's going to interview Ricochet. And he says, we've noticed a change in your attitude, and Ricochet's acting a little heelish here. The Hurt Syndicate interrupts. I'm just going to reiterate once again how over they are. There's people chanting, we hurt people, right to the music. Even when the music's off, they're doing it. There's MVP chants. They're just super over. Like, AEW cannot drop the ball with these guys. I mean, they can. I just hope they don't. at one point, Ricochet says something about how he's cooking and he's got 6 points in this tournament. And hey, Shelton, maybe you could have 6 points like me or whatever. And, kind of put Shelton down a little bit. Lashley looks like $1 million again. They're all in their suits, dressed to the nines. MVP says, you know what, Ricochet, do you still have that card I gave you? He says, yeah. He hands it to MVP. MVP rips it and says, no one likes a kiss ass. And they just kind of bitch him out. And he takes off, slinks out of the ring, and, oh yeah, I'll catch you guys, or whatever he's saying on his way out. And I'm not getting the booking here of Ricochet. So for all the people that are like, oh, thank God he's out of WWE. Oh, they held him back and they didn't show his, his creative side and blah, blah, blah. Okay, so he comes into, let's recap. He comes in, he hasn't been around too long. Had some decent matches. All right, Ospreay's obviously a big supporter of his. Then he just starts to kind of act heelish for almost no reason. And then we have this whole segment that just makes him look like a bitch. So I don't totally understand what they're doing with Ricochet, and I don't understand how it's supposed to help him. And I really don't understand the people that think, like, look, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that WWE did him right or wrong, but what I am going to say is that, how is this better? Even if he gets some wins, I mean, this just made him look like a joke. So, I don't know if it leads to something. I'll be glad to say I was wrong. But as of right now, this did not look good for Ricochet. So, Shelton stays in the ring because Continental Classic match. Shelton versus Beast Mordos. MVP was on commentary. I commented on how Shelton was just throwing Mortis around. It's amazing the strength and technique he still has at his age. He's 49, I believe. Shelton Benjamin is. There was a let's go Shelton, let's go Beast chants back and forth. Shelton wins with what he calls the hurt fall. Lashley and Shelton get in there. They start jumping Mordos. And then Garcia and Briscoe run in and they get beat up. And Shelton is standing over Garcia holding the TNT title. And the crowd is cheering "We Hurt People" as the baby faces are laid out in the ring. Okay, so we go backstage. Renee is with Ricochet. And he says, I don't know what happened out there, but I'll tell you what. On Saturday, I have Ospreay. And Swerve interrupts. And I couldn't quite hear it, but it sounded like he called him a turd. And he says, I was waiting for the real Ricochet, or should I say the real Trevor, which got an ooh from the crowd because, kayfabe, he said his real name. I guess. And he says, I'm waiting for the real Trevor to show up, and kind of insults him and implies that I guess he's always been a no good guy. So I guess we're going full on with the Ricochet heel turn, but kind of an inexplicable heel turn, I guess. But Ricochet is doing like this stupid laugh, like this high pitched, like, aha! He did it a couple of times throughout the night. He does it in like Swerve's face before he leaves. I mean, if you want to get people to dislike you, that's a good way. So then they go to an RJ City interview with Toni Storm. She's talking about how she can't believe she made it. She's all elite. She was in the indies grinding to get here. And RJ City is just like, what are you talking about? You don't remember anything? What if I said Timeless Toni Storm? Don't you remember that? And she goes, no, you have it backwards, RJ. It's Tony Time. And she throws up, the rock, the fingers, I don't know what you call that, like the rock on, the sign of the devil kind of looking thing, and Tony Time, and she's really being overacting it, like, so now she's kind of making a parody of her former gimmick before Time was Toni Storm. So Toni Storm has amnesia. She doesn't remember anything except for, I guess, getting signed by AEW recently. Then we go to Ospreay versus Darby. I put Ospreay still incredibly over with his entrance. So is Darby. There was holy shit chants. The crowd was looking forward to this. I was looking forward to this match. And it was a good match. They went back and forth. They did some good stuff. They did a couple of things I thought were questionable, but overall I thought it was really good. Darby did a nice spot where he holds on to the headlock. So he had the headlock, and Ospreay bounced him off the ropes and went to shove him off, and Darby held it. And I was like, ooh, I like to see that a little more often, where you don't just get to automatically push a guy off with one hand and he runs off the ropes. Darby's selling was great, I wrote. The crowd was super hot for this match. I just wish Darby Allin would slow down a little bit. He did that coffin drop on the apron again, where he just like hits the corner, and I'm scared he's gonna end up in a wheelchair. I mean, he just looks like he's gonna break his spine doing one of these moves. He continued to sell throughout the match. He did a really good job of selling. I'm glad to see that. AEW needs more of that. A lot of near falls. The crowd's doing AEW chants. I really wish that Excalibur would stop saying 2.999 ad infinitum. It's just cringe. A lot of this is awesome chants. At one point, Ospreay gave the Styles Clash to Darby off of the apron and onto the floor. That got a holy shit chant. Ospreay selling his knee. I liked that. That was a nice touch. There should be a price to pay when you do a move from the apron to the floor, even to the guy doing offense. There should be a price to pay. I liked that. There was fight forever chants. Eventually, they got back in the ring, and Darby ended up landing a Scorpion Death Drop. And he did say it was showtime before he came out, so there was a lot of Sting tributes here. And one up top hit a coffin drop to Ospreay while he was on all fours on his back, trying to recover from the Scorpion Death Drop. And then Ospreay turned over. Darby scurried back up, another coffin drop, and won. And that made me go, wow. Because I thought for sure Ospreay was winning this. So I like this. I would say, though, I think that AEW painted themselves in a corner a little bit with some of this booking in the Continental Classic. Because I just said a few weeks ago how Darby was taking on too many losses for a guy who looks like he's poised to go against Moxley soon. But now you've got Ospreay, who feels like he's cooling off a little, and you desperately need some hot guys in that company right now, and he's one of the hottest, in terms of the crowd and everything. So I hope they don't cool him off too much. Somebody had to win, and that's the thing about a tournament. You can't have a bunch of all draws. So, okay, and then Claudio was just staring at Darby from the crowd because they're going to fight coming up in the tournament. All right, so then we go to the Death Riders with Jay White. I'm sorry, the Death Riders versus Jay White, Orange Cassidy, and Paige. I talked about this earlier. A lot of Hangman cheers and a lot of cowboy shit cheers. I keep talking about the new badass Hangman might be more over than the babyface Hangman. All he had to do was burn down somebody's house. So then there was a lot of, so there's a lot of back and forth. And like I said, the crowd was all about Hangman. At one point, Orange Cassidy tagged in Paige. He was cleaning house. But then White tagged himself in, and Paige says, screw you, I'm out of here, and leaves his teammates high and dry. So he's definitely still a heel. I'm not saying he's not. I'm just saying that the crowd is kind of treating him differently. So here's something I made a note of, and I'm not saying the two companies have to copy each other, but on WWE, they have the pile driver over right now as like this devastating thing that could hospitalize you. On this show, Mox hit a pile driver on Jay White, and they went to commercial as he goes to pin him. So Jay White kicked out in the picture-in-picture, but the pile driver is just like a commercial spot on this channel, and on the other channel, it's paralyzing people and putting them in the hospital. Big FU Yuta chants. I don't think this is like the, ooh, you're a heel, we don't like you. I think it's like literally people don't want to see him type of stuff. Jay White was in trouble and had nobody to tag because Orange Cassidy was laid out, and like we said earlier, Hangman took off. Then Paige did come back to attack Moxley. And then he went to go do the buckshot to Wheeler Yuta, who moved, and he hit Orange Cassidy. So people like, oh wait, who was that for? And then White and Paige start arguing back and forth. And in the confusion, Mox rolled up Orange Cassidy and got the quick pin. And the faces all argue with each other. And Marina Shafir protects Moxley and gets him out of Dodge. And we go off. That's how we go off the air. So trouble in paradise for the three baby faces that are going to face Jon Moxley at the World's End pay-per-view. Okay. All right. So let's go on to Rampage on December 20th. And again, if you're listening, please give us a subscribe. It would mean the world to me. Give us a like, comment, share, all that good stuff. Find us on all social media at Jason Talks About. I'm everywhere. So please find us, like us, and especially on YouTube, please subscribe. Okay, so I'm not going to go too deep into Rampage. I only started covering it because there was some crossover with some important things, especially the Continental Classic. There was a Shivani in the ring with the Don Callis family and Kyle Fletcher, and there was an in-ring interview, and they did almost the same match as last Rampage, where it was Davis and Hobbs come out against Takeshita and Cage. The only difference is it was Takeshita and the Murder Hawk Monster last week, Lance Archer. And so it was almost the same match. Different result, though. Last week, Hobbs pinned Archer, and this week, Takeshita pinned Davis, which is definitely the right move. So, again, it's just a little preview that Hobbs and Takeshita are going to fight coming up, I believe, at the World's End. I'm looking forward to that. I think that's going to be pretty good. Another notable thing that happened on Rampage, Renee's in the back with Willow. Statlander comes up to her and kind of awkwardly and says, there's so much I want to say, but I'm just going to say good luck. So they're teasing, like, could they be friends again? And then Renee's in the back with Harley Cameron. Penelope Ford says, you know, we share a lot of the same assets. And then it was funny because Harley Cameron says, oh, how much did yours cost? But she meant that, you know, they have a lot of the same attributes and qualities, and maybe they should look out for each other. So then we go out to the ring, and it's Harley Cameron's about to fight Willow Nightingale. They fight. Willow dominates. Willow wins. Penelope then comes out to attack, making good on her offer about watching each other's back. And then Statlander comes out to save Willow Nightingale. I did make a note that Statlander had to hold her shirt up the whole time of this whole sequence. So I wonder why wear something like that if that's what you have to do, you know, if you're so scared of the wardrobe malfunction. So Statlander makes the save. Her and Willow awkwardly look at each other, and Statlander just clears out of the ring. So they're definitely teasing them being friends again. Continental Classic time. Brody versus Commander. I'm not going to say much about this. It was a decent match. Brody got the win in the Continental Classic. So that was my quick rundown of Rampage. Let's go and move on to AEW Collision. So this was good. They were in the Hammerstein Ballroom, and this was a good move by AEW. The crowd was electric. They definitely got some crossover from that old ECW feel, and so again, they sold the place out. It's packed. It's not as big, but you could feel the electricity from the crowd. It was such a good move. I'm so happy. I'm glad that AEW is doing this. I hope this is what they're going to do moving forward. And hey, if the demand comes back up and 10,000 people want tickets, then go back into bigger arenas. But right now, if you're getting between 2 and 3, 2,500, I say, whatever, do this because it's working way better for you, okay? So Collision from December 21st, 2024. Riccaboni's in the ring with AJ and Big Justice, the Costco people. And they give a quick promo about the boom or whatever, and they just keep saying boom and boom over and over again, and it says boom a lot, is my point. And again, I'm not crapping on these guys. I don't know a lot about them. I know they're big on social media, and they like Costco, and it's AJ and Big Justice's son. So Ospreay makes his way out, super over with this crowd. He stops with AJ and Big Justice to do the boom pose. We got another boom. I think that was like the 10th one of the night already. Versus Ricochet. So here's one thing I had, and this is just a little details that maybe AEW, like WWE, does a little bit better. They were doing. Ospreay has this unique entrance. Of anyone who's not familiar, and in his song, it's actually built in where there's a part where they say Ospreay, Ospreay, and the crowd goes back and forth. And they were busy doing replays of what happened recently with Ospreay, which kind of drowned out the entrance. And I thought, man, if I was directing this, would have held off on that. But I wrote the crowd was super hot, and they were super against Ricochet. I mean, this has to go beyond just his kind of soft heel turn on Dynamite, the way he was acting. Like, I think this crowd just legit does not like him. They were throwing toilet paper out at him. There was some holy shit chants. Just at the fact that these two are facing off, because they do have a history. There was a F 'em up Ospreay chants. They were doing the Osprey, in the in the fashion of Olay. So this crowd, like I said, was hot. At one point, there was a "We Want Samantha" chant at Ricochet, and that made me laugh. I'm a big Samantha Johnson supporter. She's a fellow New Bedford native like myself. Yeah, I mean, I think we all want Samantha back. So, hopefully something happens. Hey, if this Ricochet is going to be a heel, he might need a manager. Who knows? Ricochet at one point, there was like him and Osprey were against the ropes, and on the break he slapped Osprey. So like I said, just weird that just suddenly just started going so heel out of the blue, without a good reason. There was a toilet paper spot on the outside of the ring where Ricochet picked up some of the toilet paper, pretended to wipe his ass, and put it in Osprey's face. So that got him heat. At one point, Ricochet went to go do a backflip in the ring. Back in the ring, they went to go do like a backflip onto Osprey, and he slipped off the ropes and he recovered really quickly and nicely, but the crowd definitely let him have it with the "You effed up" chants, and he gave them the middle finger right back. At one point, I wrote this, and this is some of the commentary problems with AEW. Ricochet hit a shooting star press on the outside of the ring, so off the apron and onto the floor on top of Osprey. And Shivani's talking about the points in the tournament while this is happening. And other than Nigel just kind of going, ooh, that's all that was said about that. It was like a huge spot. That should have been a big deal. And we're talking about who has what points in the tournament. Like, sometimes you got to, adjust on the fly. Like, put the paper notes down and say, oh my God, look at this, Anyway, small nitpick. A lot of AEW chants. So, like I said, crowd's super into it. There was the forearm exchange, boo, yay, boo, yay. There was a ref bump where Osprey had it won. There was a ref bump where, and then Osprey had Ricochet pinned. So Osprey has an out now. He had him pinned. And I'm saying to myself at this point, like, oh, that's interesting. Are they going to actually do this? Is Ricochet going to go over? Osprey gets distracted. He's trying to get the ref up, trying to get him up. The referee starts to gather himself. He's pulling himself up by the ropes. Ricochet is laying behind him. Osprey goes up the ropes to do another move, and Ricochet kicks the referee right in the ass. Of course, the referee can't see what's happening. He's still dazed. So he bumps back into the ropes, which then causes Osprey to fall between his legs in the turnbuckle and spill into the ring, which then enables Ricochet to hit the Spirit Gun move and win. And I said, whoa, Ricochet wins. So Osprey with 2 losses in a row. So yikes, I talked about this. They got to be careful. If there's one guy you cannot afford to cool off right now, it's Will Ospreay, and he's starting to feel pretty cool. He still was really over with the crowd, but, he needs some wins back because the crowd's only going to be so patient. I call it the Dolph Ziggler effect, where you can be the best worker and most beloved guy in the world, and if you condition the crowd to just think you're going to lose all the time, they're going to stop caring. They're not going to care as much. That is not a shot at Dolph Ziggler. I respect the hell out of him, but the way he was booked, they really kind of booked the crowd into apathy over him, which is unfortunate because he's great. Okay, so Ricochet with the win. Then they had the MJF and Adam Cole face off. So already this collision feels bigger. The crowd's red hot. Their storylines playing off from Dynamite. This felt like it could have been a Dynamite. And Cole and MJF face off. MJF comes out with security. Adam Cole's already in the ring. Adam Cole's entrance is still really over, like I said before. MJF comes out with all the security around the ring. MJF, I wrote, was making sense again. You turned on me. He talks about the things you should fear just as much as me, like spray tans, a crack in the sidewalk. And at one point he says, cavities, because I heard your dentist isn't seeing you anymore. Adam Cole just had this weird blank stare as MJF just tore him apart, and the crowd was like, whoa, whoa. If this was a rap battle, MJF would just be killing him. He talks about how you were my little sidekick in the brochachos, and look at me and look at you, and just tore him apart. And okay, so then it's Adam Cole's turn, and it's funny because he says, I could stoop to your level. I could talk about the fact that you had surgeries on your hair twice, to implant hair, and you're only in your 20s, and that you got your girl hired because you're a politician. And he says, but I'm not going to do all that stuff. He said a few other insults, and then he says, because I'm not like you. Well, you just did all the stuff, so I don't get that. But he says something about, I'm mad because I turned on you first or whatever. And MJF finally snaps, and I guess this is supposed to be their justification for the Adam Cole character, when MJF goes, "You're damn right I was going to do it." And then he kind of pulls back like, "Oh, man, I let it slip." And then he says, yeah, I was going to turn on you on that night, and you got lucky. You beat me by this much, and blah, blah, blah. And, so they're kind of making us, we're also in the audience supposed to go, wow, look, see, Cole was justified. He was. MJF was going to turn on me. It doesn't matter. The fact is, he still turned on him first. He was still the scumbag. We all seen it. He was acting like a heel. He was acting like a heel toward Wardlow. He was being a jerk to everybody. He was the stupid devil. They hurt all kind of people and jumped all kind of people for months. It still doesn't make any sense. They can try to force the square peg into the round hole, or whatever your analogy is. It's still stupid, and MJF to me still looks like the guy that's in the right, and I think that any casual viewer would probably see it that way too. So then Adam Cole ends up attacking MJF, ends up punching him, and they brawl back and forth a little bit. The security gets in, separates them. Adam Cole's fighting off all the security guards, and then MJF runs in with a low blow. And just as it looks like he's about to take advantage of him with the diamond ring, Taven and Bennett run out. I'm predicting Taven and Bennett join MJF. This is all a little too convenient. That's what I think is going to happen. Maybe even Roddy, maybe O'Reilly. We'll see. If they don't, then this doesn't make any sense with the babyface always having the numbers advantage. I just don't get that. Although this isn't the only place in the show that they do this in AEW. So, okay, so that was that segment. Wasn't bad. MJF is always pretty good, to watch on the mic. Lexi's in the back with Statlander. They talk about the awkward exchange between her and Willow on Rampage, and she talks about, Statlander talks about when, she's been on kind of a spiral since she lost the TBS title, and she wants it back. So she wants Mercedes again at World's End. They've already fought, but she wants another shot at her. Okay. And then they go to break. They come back. Lexi's with Orange Cassidy. He suggests that the three of the baby faces eliminate Mox, and then they fight it out for the heart of AEW. Well, not baby faces. Him, Jay White, and Hangman Page, who's probably the most over of the bunch, even though he's not a baby face right now. Okay, so then we go to Statlander versus Penelope Ford. A lot of Statlander chants. There was a cool spot where Statlander held her in that delayed vertical suplex for a while. And then Penelope actually kind of turned it into a sleeper. So, if you can picture this, Statlander has her up. Penelope manages to kind of get the sleeper on. And then Statlander manages to get Penelope from the sleeper reversed back into a suplex, standing vertical suplex. So that was pretty cool. The crowd did get a little quiet at times for this match, even though it was a hot crowd for most of the night. Statlander ended up winning with a tombstone. Mercedes Moné comes out to the stage and says she accepts the challenge, and they are going to fight at World's End. So when we come back, AJ and Big Justice are in the ring again, and Jericho interrupts, and Jericho tells him, "Don't you know who I am?" And Big Justice said, "I know who you are. You're a jackass," which got a pretty big pop. And it was funny because the Bad Apple Brian Keats says, punk ass kids like you are meant to be seen, not heard, and that kind of made me laugh. Jericho talks about how he's the king of New York, and there aren't no Costco's in New York City. And this is the house that Jericho built in the Hammerstein Ballroom. And Jericho has a point. He had some big moments there as part of ECW. And then he says, this was one of the most awkward transitions, because he says, we're the learning tree. We don't need any dumb gimmicks, which I hope he was being ironic, like scissoring and stupid stuff like that. And as he says that, Anthony Bowens, instead of walking out and punching Jericho in the face, walks by, bumps him and Big Bill, and gets in the ring. Big Bill starts to cut some kind of a promo, and there was Big Bill chants, and Bowens basically tells him to shut the hell up, challenges Jericho. Jericho says not tonight, so I guess we're getting the Anthony Bowens solo run, and he's going to go against Jericho. And Bowens and AJ and Big Justice all do a scissor boom, I called it, because they all scissored, but they did the boom at the end. Yep, that's a real thing. Okay, so Lexi's in the back with the Vendetta, who I keep saying look great and can both wrestle. Valkyrie is in the shape of her life, Taya Valkyrie, and Deonna Purrazzo, is a good hand in the ring, and they've been buried on Rampage right now, so I guess Collision is a little bit of a promotion, so hopefully they start to showcase them a little bit more. Toni Storm comes out, comes in, interrupts. Oh my God, she's doing the amnesia thing. I'm so happy to meet you girls, and this and that, and Deonna says, look, I don't know what kind of sick shit you're trying to prove, because obviously they have big history, and they talk about the tattoo she has on her ankle, and she said, how did you know about that? And so it's basically Toni Storm only remembers from when she came back on Dynamite in the last couple of weeks, and nothing before that, apparently. So that's the storyline they're going with. So Continental Classic, Shelton versus Garcia. I wrote, the dance is back. I thought Garcia was going to be taking himself a little more seriously, but he's doing the dance again. Garcia did jumpstart the match, because if you remember, the Hurt Syndicate did jump him and his friends. We Hurt People chants again. So again, Hurt Syndicate super over. There was an interesting spot that I thought was probably really nice for the kids in attendance, where Garcia was trying to get himself back up after being beaten on the outside of the ring, and he was up against the guardrail, and a bunch of kids reached down and were like helping to pull him up. So that must have been a nice moment for those kids. Lots of AEW chants, lots of this is awesome. It was a good match. These guys are both good technical wrestlers. I don't have anything against Garcia. I'm just not sure if he should be in the spot he's in yet, and holding a title and all that stuff. I don't know. I just feel like AEW kind of has their priorities out of whack with the way they book, but that's for another day, I guess. But my point was, he is a good technical wrestler, so is Shelton Benjamin, and this was a good back and forth match. The crowd really appreciated it. Garcia ended up winning with a roll-up. The Hurt Syndicate attacked again. Briscoe came out with a chair with all kind of security, in between him and the heels, who are now on the outside of the ring facing the entranceway. And Swerve ran through the crowd to the top rope and gave Lashley like a stomp, but like while Lashley was standing, and took him out. And so he came right off the top rope onto Lashley, onto the outside. Security gun and wrestlers came out as well to keep everybody separated, and Swerve just cut a quick promo on Lashley, and so that's not over yet, the Lashley Swerve feud. Then we went to another Continental Classic match. It was Mark Briscoe versus Beast Mordos. Briscoe won that with the Jay Driller. Not a lot to say about that. Mariah May had a backstage interview talking about Rosa's dad, Thunder Rosa's dad again, and saying that, oh, I heard he'll be there. Maybe he's looking, maybe Thunder Rosa needs a new mommy. I'm not a bad cook. And that made an enraged Thunder Rosa attack her and started beating on her, and they fought into the arena, and security had to intervene and separate them. Then we went to the Continental Classic, the main event, Continental Classic match of the night, Claudio versus Darby. Darby jump-started the match with a dive when Claudio was making his way in. Darby, there was a scary moment, and I say this on like every Darby Allin match. There was a part where they fought up the rampway on the outside of the ring, and Darby made his way up this scaffolding which goes over the entranceway, so it's a good probably 15 feet. He jumps down onto Claudio, but what happened was kind of like his midsection hit like Claudio's shoulder, and the whiplash like sent him whipping into the floor, and I could swear it looked like he hit the back of his head, and he probably had his bell rung, and I just don't like seeing that, because I just think that Darby is cutting years off of his career, maybe his life, with some of this stuff. I mean, he's a great talent, and I'm impressed at what he does with his size, but I wish that he would tone it down just a couple of notches. There was a lot of holy shit chants for stuff like that for Darby. At one point, Darby had a sleeper on Claudio, and Claudio this was on the outside of the ring, and Claudio just jumped backwards through the timekeeper's table. So, again, another big bump on Darby. At one point, Claudio body slammed Darby from the inside of the ring onto the outside apron, so his spine hit the corner of the apron again. I don't want to sound like a broken record. I think everybody knows what I'm going to say about that. He went outside. He actually did the giant swing into the steel steps. That looked safe. At one point, Claudio goes to the outside while the ref is checking on Darby, and he grabbed a chair and slipped some brass knucks into his tights. So he gets in the ring with the chair, and this is, again, one of those details that, and it's not just an AEW thing. WWE has had some stupid logic with stuff like this too, where the heel comes into the ring with the chair, and the ref argues with him and gets into a tug of war pulling the chair from him, which I don't understand why he just doesn't say, you know what, screw you, you're not going to give up that chair, you're disqualified. Because you don't get to come in with a weapon. Just because you didn't use it doesn't mean you shouldn't be disqualified, especially if you don't immediately drop it when the ref says to, okay? So as he's doing that, it gave Claudio a chance to put the brass knuckles on and knock out Darby and win. And then he went out and grabbed a couple of chairs to look like he was going to injure Darby. And then Ospreay came out to stop Claudio. So Ospreay and Claudio are getting set up, I guess, for Continental Classic action. And that's how we went off the air. So I'm going to say decent week for AEW. Very noticeable in Washington and in the Hammerstein Ballroom in New York. Being in the smaller arenas really made a difference. And the crowds were really hot. They were super hot in this one, and they were really hot on Dynamite as well. Yeah, so I think this was a pretty good week for AEW. Did I love everything? No, I don't love everything on WWE either. But I do feel like AEW is getting a little momentum. I just would like them to polish some stuff up and just to tie up some logic holes and just get some people positioned better on how they're booking people and where they're pushing people. Interesting to see what happens when the dust settles on World's End next coming up, because we got some returns coming. Copeland, Adam Copeland, Kenny Omega. I'm hoping Ricky Starks. So, they have a chance to start regaining momentum. They're not going to be on Max. They're going to be streaming. They're going to have more exposure. So I'm rooting for them. I have been rooting for them, but I have to call out what I see, and it's not always good. And I'm going to talk about that when. I'm always going to be honest with you people with my opinions. That's all I can do. But anyway, that is my recap of AEW. I want to thank everybody for listening. Again, please like and subscribe. Follow us on social media. Comment, share, and especially subscribe on YouTube and give us some likes. And I appreciate each and every one of you that takes time out to listen to me. So that's it. And on to next week. We're going to have AEW is going to have their pay-per-view, World's End, so there will be no collision. So I will cover Dynamite. It's supposed to be the last episode of Rampage, actually, so maybe I'll see what they do there to cover some of that, and I will definitely be covering the pay-per-view. So thanks, everyone, for listening. Take care. Happy holidays, and I will see you all next week.